Hello, this is the second part of my report on the civilization in Southeast Asia with the subtopic of forms of government. So we have the unitary, democratic, federal government, autocratic, oligarchy, or they call it government by the few, parliamentary democracy, communist, and the monarchy. Forms of government, the unitary. So it is the unitary government that is often described as a centralized government. All powers held by the government belong to a single central agency, and the central national government creates local units of government for its convenience. Like example, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. So in the unitary form government as a single legislative branch that was established by the Constitution and is controlled as a single entity. So top down is the only kind of power, and a unitary state is a sovereign state where the central authority hold absolute power. So as I mentioned, the Philippines, for example, is the unitary state, as the central government serve as the final arbiters of all matters. And then the second one, we have the oligarchy, or the government by the few. Meaning to say, the oligarchy is a form of power structure in which power rests with a small number of people. These people may or may not be distinguished by one of several characteristics, such as the nobility, fame, wealth, education, or corporate, religious, political, or military control. So in this oligarchy, meaning to say, it is only a small group of people that hold all the sway, or tiny group of people running the country. So open for corrupt and self-service reason. So I just remember this oligarchy government in the time of, here in the Philippines, in the time of President Marcos, because our government that time is all Senate corruption. So I just put it, the Philippines is a oligarchy government. A democratic has a system of government in which the people have the power to participate in decision making. Its democracy is unique and works in different ways. In some democracies, citizens help make decisions directly by voting in laws and policy proposal directly democracy. So in this democratic, or in short term, the democracy is a form of government in which significant decisions are made by the people. A Senate is a group that is typically thought to include all and nearly all the adult citizens, and directly or indirectly. For example, democratic government country, this is the India and the Philippines. Next, the federal. The federal government, it is a system of government that is one in which there is a central government as well as a number of semi-autonomous states or provinces that exist within the central government. That fact that a federal government is made up of several states or provinces, and that these states and provinces are subordinate to the federal government, are its key figures. The constitution of a federal government often outlines the guiding concepts that guide its operation. So, meaning to say po, in federal, meaning it is a federal system that is a form of government in which two levels of authority share control over the same territory. And there is a bigger geographical areas are typically government, or typically governed more broadly by an overarching national government, while local concerns are typically handled by smaller subdivision state and cities. And the center government and the lesser political subdivision have both the authority to enact laws and some degree of independence from one another. One, we have the parliamentary. This is the parliament or legislature that is elected by the people, and parliament makes and enforces law. The leaders of parliament is usually chosen by the party that wins the majority of representatives in the legislature, like the premier or prime minister. So it leads executive branch and answer directly to the legislature, and usually a head of state service, a ceremonial leader, and usually leads with help from a cabinet group of advisor. India, largest parliamentary democracy in the world, Japan. So, meaning to say po, the parliamentary government is a democratic type of government in which the party or coalition of parties with the most representation in the legislature or parliament, whose leader became prime minister or chancellor, and this kind form of the government of the parliamentary. Autocratic meaning to say the ruler has absolute power to do whatever he wishes and make and enforce whatever law he chooses, and citizens do not have any right to choose leader or vote on law. So meaning to say the autocracy is a form of government in which one ruler has absolute control and decision making power in all matters of state and over the country people. But there is a described a way of ruling, but not in a nice way. And the autocratic leader is one who rules with an iron fist, in the other word, or someone with the behavior of a dictator. So the autocratic rulers don't tend to be popular, and they use fear and control to gain total power over their people. The communist, it is a one-party dictatorship, or communist is a political and economic ideology that positions itself in opposition to liberal democracy and capitalism, advocating instead for a classless system in which the means of production are owned communally and private property is non-existent or severely carteled. So in this communist, just like example of the China, isn't it? It is a communist government, because Communist Party is a political party that seeks to realize the socio-economic goal of communism. But what do you mean of communist? This is a political or economic ideology, as I said, that position in the opposition to liberal democracy. And today, the existing state in the world are like China, Cuba, Laos, and Vietnam in the part of Southeast Asia. Monarchy is a political system in which supreme authority is vested in the monarchs, an individual ruler who functions as head of state, and it typically acts as a political administrative organization and as a social group of nobility known as court society. So, yung monarchy, as we know, it is a country that is ruled by a monarch and the system of government. So, there is a king and queen that rule as a kingdom or empire, and it is a constitutionally a monarchy, and the monarch's power limited by the constitution. As the example of the monarchy government, this is the Cambodia, Thailand, Malaysia, Brunei, Indonesia, and Laos. Sultanates. Sultan meaning strength, authority, or power, or rulership. And in recent years, the sultan has been gradually replaced by king or by contemporary hereditary rulers who wish to emphasize their secular authority under the role of law. So, sultans is a great value to students and researchers specializing in the study of Islam and the comparative study of Muslim societies and culture. It will also be useful to those with a world system approach to the study of history and globalization. So, the sultanates are those geographical and political entities that represent Muslim dominance as it expressed through patronage, nepotism, and cronyism. So, for example, there is a Sultanate of Melaka, which it is a Malay state which began to the trading outpost of the Melaka. Chiefdoms is a type of hierarchical political system found in pre-industrial culture that is typically based on kinship and where the legislative senior member of a few select families or houses hold formal authority, and compared to the broader populace, these elites constitute a political ideological aristocracy, and chieftain in a notional form of socio-political organization in which political and economic power is exercised by a single person or a group of persons over many communities. Here my reference of all my topic in civilization in Southeast Asia. Thank you so much po.